here. Drinking some agua. I figured I'd do a little live stream, talk to you guys about some of the situations you'll be in as a dump truck owner that you just kind of have to look at them and say, well, that's out of my control. So you got to learn to know when it's out of your control, so you know when not to stress about it. You know? You know, in a sense, when you're working on trucks and stuff, when they break down, in a sense, partly that's out of your control. But you can kind of prepare yourself. The weather is another one of those things that you got no control over the weather. Now, I got the idea for this video from the first post I ever made in King County Dump Truckers. You know, they kind of went viral. It was that post saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. La-di-da-di-da, this is my experience, this is what I got. You know, I'm looking for, you know, 90 to 100,000 a year. That's kind of what I wanted to make. And we ended up, one of the comments, you know, it leaded into basically, oh, you have a dump truck? Oh, you think you're going to make all this money? Well, you know, there's so much out of your control. You're not going to make what you think you're going to make. Yeah. I'm in the new truck. Hey, you knew it was the new truck too. In the new truck because Brandon's wife had an appointment and he asked for the day off, so he got it off, you know. And set me back a day or two, but I don't mind driving the new truck, you know. I get to drive this Lamborghini every once in a while, Blake. Oh man, this truck, it's got 92,000 miles on it, and I've only put maybe 2,000 on it myself. Maybe. But let's get back on topic. So I mentioned that I had, you know, an old truck, and the guy was like, well, you don't understand, everything's out of your control and this and that. You're never going to make any money because those are things you can't control. Ambition isn't enough and this and that and blah, 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 blah. Negative, negative, negative. Crap, 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 you know. And I just ignored the guy. I was like, dude, you don't think it can happen? I know it can happen because I got a purpose and I'm on my grind. I'm going to make it happen. And, you know, 4 years in, you do start to realize there are a few things that are out of your control. There are. But things that are out of your control aren't going to break you, usually, you know. It's just, you can't let things that are out of your control affect you in a negative way that you lose motivation to work. That's one of the biggest things. You know, my first year, everybody knows I made $106,000 my first summer, right? And everybody on King County Dump Truckers, they thought I was all gonna fail. Every single one of them thought I wasn't gonna make it. And it just goes to show, you know, even when things are out of your control, if you bust your back, you will get through it, guaranteed. Guaranteed, you're gonna make it through it. If you just keep grinding, you know, don't start grinding, don't start suffering a little bit, and then give up halfway through, because then you did all that suffering for nothing, you know. It's it's almost like gambling in a sense. You know, if you gamble long enough, eventually you're gonna win, you know. But it's a little bit different in the sense of it's not a 50-50, it's more skewed in your favor, you know what I mean? You're more likely to succeed than you are to fail, you know. But you're definitely gonna make some mistakes. You know, I made some mistakes along the way. But one of the biggest things that you can't control is the weather, and that does affect the dump truck industry a lot. It affects it a lot, you know, because job sites, they have to manage, you know, especially in Washington. Erosion control is one of the biggest things that they have to deal with in Washington, because we're gonna get, you know, 2 or 3 inches of rain in one weekend, and that can cause some serious problems on sites. You know, if the water isn't controlled properly, if it's not set up to drain in the right direction, or you know, it can cause serious problems for the contractors and the excavators. So rain is one of the biggest things. And everybody knows, you know, September to April is basic, you know, November to April, somewhere in there, the paving basically stops because the rain. You can't really pave when it's raining. You know, you can pave a little bit, like if it's just sprinkling, you can get by. If it's full on downpouring, you're not paving because you don't want that water underneath the asphalt. And you definitely don't want the water getting mixed into the dirt, because then it just turns into mud, and then the site is screwed until it dries out. You know, so there's lots of ways that they combat that, and one of the ways they just, you know, they compact the dirt so the water sheds instead of soaking in, right? That's one of the ways. But another way is they don't want you molesting the ground once it's been compacted. You know, every time you drive over it, those lugs, the tread, it churns that dirt and it makes the water seep further in, and you know, that will shut down the job site because they don't want it to happen. They don't want the water to soak in. They want it to shed, and they want it to be controlled. So they'll shut jobs down, and that is 100% out of your control. You got no control over the weather, you know, unless you're driving chemtrails or something like that in the air. So that's one of the things that you can't control. Absolutely, it's 100% out of your control. If the weather turns to crap, you know, it is what it is. Okay, jackwagon, I'll just keep moving up and I'll cut in way up ahead of you then. Don't you just love it when people do that? They're like, they can do whatever they want. If they want to shut you down, you're shut down. The government's a mafia. You can't control what the government does, right? You know, if they decide that trucks 2020 and older aren't working, 20 trucks, or the trucks that are 2020 and older ain't gonna work. You know, they'll shut you down with the police or the military, whatever they want to do. The government has supreme power in the United States. Like, the time to stand up against the government done passed like 50 years ago. You know, the government, you can't control what they do. So if they want to shut you down, or they want to shut everybody down because of a pandemic, you know, they'll shut it down. I've been sneaking through the cracks, you know, the whole time, and it's been great for me. You know, I never got shut down. I had the exemption, you know, working for the fiber optics, and then, you know, the other pits, they didn't close down either. So I worked through the whole thing. But a lot of people, that was something that was out of their control, you know, or their perceived control. That's another thing that you have to realize too. There's a lot of things that people perceive, they think it's out of their control, but really it is part of their control. Like they want to make an excuse, you know. And I've been there. I've made stupid excuses, you know, when realistically I could have done something, and I'm just like, that's out of my control. I'll get to that later. So, you know what I'm talking about. Hell yeah, nature boy. That's cool, man. Let me get back to some of these comments I didn't read. Jeremy, what's that say? Yo, I'm still looking for a truck. Keep logging the miles and making a living. Thanks. Need to hear that. I've had several people tell me I will not succeed and be successful owning a truck. I feel I can. You definitely can, you know, and you're going to get a million people saying, oh, you can't make it, you can't do this, you can't do that. You can. It's not always as pretty as I make it out to seem. Like, I do make it look prettier than it is, and that's because I enjoy it. So it is prettier to me than some people, you know? But, you know, on a Friday evening, you get the call saying, hey, I got some bad news. You're like, what's the bad news? He's like, oh, the strong arm, the cylinder's broke. Like, oh, well, there goes my weekend. That sucks, you know? So, it's not always as pretty as it seems, you know? Sure, we can make some money. There's a lot of risk involved. There's a lot of liability. There's a lot of hard work involved. A lot of hard work. A lot of spending money on stupid stuff, you know? So one of the things I touched on was things that are out of your control, like mechanical problems. Sometimes that is out of your control. You know, like the cylinder breaking on this truck, that's out of my control. Like, nobody knew it was going to break. Nobody had any clue it was going to break. It just broke, okay? But there are some mechanical things that are within your control, and you have to take responsibility as an owner, right? So let me just give you an example of that. Okay, so like 2 or 3 weeks ago, the International, I don't know if the tailgate locks were forgotten to unlatch, or if they just were stuck, or who knows what happens, but the tailgate got bulged on the International. I had to take my excavator and smash that in, you know, so it would seal. That's the only way you're going to get that tailgate to seal, is if you smash it with an excavator. You ain't using a come along or nothing like that. You got to smash it with a big excavator so it seals, you know. But, okay, I knew that tailgate when I bought the truck. I even mentioned it in my video. I said, I don't like the look of this tailgate. I'm going to be making another tailgate for this. It's going to happen. I guarantee it. That was something I knew going into that purchase, right? It was in the back of my mind since I bought the thing. Since the first day I looked at it, I'm like, that tailgate, where the lights are, it's completely rusted out. You can poke your finger through it. So, what does that tell you about the quality? Okay, it tells you, well, they cheaped out on materials, it's kind of thin. So, you're going to be replacing a tailgate. That's within my control. Now, because I know it has an expiration date, I know that the tailgate is eventually going to break. I have the responsibility to prepare for that, right? And that goes in to the whole decision making of me buying that other welder, right? Because now I'm at a place where I can buy the materials to build another tailgate. I can start making another tailgate right now if I wanted to, now that I have a good welder. Like, my other welder kind of crapped out on me. It wasn't, you know, it was having a tough time after I replaced that head gasket. I think the head was just, I put that JB weld on the head where it had that little spot that got eroded, and I don't think the JB weld held. I mean, I don't know. I haven't taken it apart. I'm not going to. but something's wrong with it. It doesn't got the juice it had. But I know that tailgate's gonna go. So what is my responsibility? You know, how do I prevent downtime? How do I prevent loss of revenue? Okay, I gotta prepare for it to go down. So buy the stuff, make the tailgate ahead of time, and then when it does go, boom, you know, the downtime will be a lot less. My new guy has been killing it, but I guess the gauge cluster stopped working in the Sterling. Tailgate release is sticking. Yeah. And tailgate, the dogs, they stick all the time. They do stick. You know, and the sucky part is, it's one of those components, you can grease it, but there's really no point, because as soon as you dump your first load of dirt, it's covered in dirt. And then it's got grime in there, and then next thing you know, it's getting jammed up again because it's got so much dirt mixed with the grease. So it's like catch-22. Is it better to have it dry, or is it better to have it greased? You don't know. Nobody's ever, you know, came up with the conclusion of that, you know. And you know, so it's just one of those things. So another thing that's out of your control, but it's partially in your control, but it's out of your control, is your health, right? If you break a leg or break an arm, or you get sick, you know, it's partially out of your control, but it's also, you got to take responsibility and accountability. Don't do stupid stuff, you know? Don't do something that's going to get yourself hurt. Think about it before you do it. Like, you know, when I was riding that dirt bike, every single time I got on that dirt bike, in my head, I'm thinking, if I crash and break a leg, I better be able to make it with that broken leg. I better be able to drive that truck with a broken leg, because somebody's got to make that money. You know, I better put a peg leg on or something, you know. So it's out of your control to a certain extent, but it's still in your control. Like, don't do stupid stuff. Think everything through, you know. Watch your weight, watch your, you know, watch what you're eating, you know. Don't get too big that you can't even fit behind the steering wheel. You know, that's something that is within your control, but it's out of your control, you know, because you do have some say in what happens. You just don't have 100% like, oh, if I let go of the ball, it's gonna drop. That's a guaranteed. Gravity, you can't change gravity, right? You know, but you don't always have 100% control, because things can happen, but they're a lot less likely to happen if you're making smart decisions. So, you know, there's quite a few things that are out of your control. You know, one thing that really irked me when I first got into dump trucking, and it really prohibited me particularly, and I'm making an excuse here, let me explain it once I'm done, is pits, they don't stay open till 6 o'clock at night. They close at like 3 o'clock. They're like, see ya, 3 o'clock, peace out, 4 o'clock, peace out. You know, they do not stay open late. They open at 5 in the morning, 7 in the morning, you know, and then they're closed at 3, 4 o'clock, you know, they close early. So that's out of your control. So that only limits your hours that you can work, right? It basically says, okay, well, if I don't have a customer that, you know, all they want is a few loads because that's all they can do because the quarry closes, well, then that's, you know, it's out of your control because you can't control when the quarry stays open and closed, right? But it also is not out of your control because you can decide to be productive after the quarry closes. Now, how do you do that? my personal way with dealing with that type of downtime or that type of loss of revenue, because the quarry isn't open afterwards, is, okay, what do I do to make up for that time that I can't get? Okay, I can do maintenance on the trucks. I can do maybe a side job that doesn't require the quarry, or, some sort of product. Or if I get that product and I have it stockpiled and it's ready for me. That's one of those things. It's out of your control to a certain point, unless you prepare. So that's one of those things, that guy, he tried to get me all negative thinking about, it's out of your hands, and that's one of the things that keeps people from buying trucks, is they think, this is I can't control anything. I can't do this, I can't do that. If all you think is, I can't, then you won't. It's that simple. It's that simple. If you want to be in control of it, be in control of it. It's called you prepare ahead of time, right? So, I try not to take the mindset of, well, that's out of my control. I always try and think of, okay, what could I do different so I can be in control of this? And how do you do that? It's by preparing. It's by thinking ahead. Now, thinking ahead is pretty hard, especially for a lot of people. A lot of people suck at it. I suck at it a lot, but every single day I'm trying to make myself better at thinking ahead, right? So the better you are at thinking ahead, the more money you can make. I guarantee you that is truth right there. The better you can see into the future, the more money you're gonna make, right? So how do you see into the future? You say, okay, look at your daily life, look at your daily loads, look at your daily jobs or your monthly jobs or your weekly jobs, and think to yourself, okay, once you've been in business for a year or two, you have some history to go off of. You have some of that knowledge that you can use because you've experienced it, right? So you take your experience and you say, okay, well, last year I did this many driveways. Okay. This year I'm on driveway number 3. Last year I did 6 driveways. The average driveway took 15 tons of rock, and I only got 3 more driveways to do this year. So if I grab 3 loads and just stockpile them at my house, then I'll be ready to do those driveways on a weekend or after hours once the quarry closes or once I get done with another job. That's called being productive, right? It's seeing into the future by looking at what has happened. I should be charging you guys for this information here. This is worth a lot of money. This information, I kid you not, is worth a lot of money. So, and it's worth more depending on how you use it too. It might not be worth nothing to you. If you don't use this information, it's not going to be worth jack squat to you. But if you learn how to do it, it's going to make you a lot of money. I know, because this is how I've started to work. I've started to try and predict the future, and if I can predict what the future is, I can prepare for it, and things will go more smoothly, right? So I have a job. I had it kind of lined up, for last week, right? And I've been itching to, get some rock in one of the trucks on a Friday. So if I didn't have an opening during the week to drop this load off for this customer, that's not one of my main customers. It's kind of a side job, you know. It's one of those filler-in jobs, basically. Like, because my primary objective is just keeping the dump trucks working for the quarry and working for the 2 other excavating contractors, or the 3 other contractors that usually uses us, right? So all the other stuff is kind of just like piecemeal, or it's like, you know, I consider like side jobs. They're not side jobs, but there's no way to, I don't know how to word it right now while I'm on this thought train. So basically, you know, I've been trying to get a truck loaded, so after hours, you know, when nobody else is working, I can go and work. I can go and make that money. Now, when you have it set up like that, when you have your normal customers and you're working and you're grinding, that's your bread and butter. Once you add the garlic sauce, you know, or whatever you want to put on your toast, if you put jelly on your toast, or if you put cinnamon sugar on your toast, that's your cinnamon sugar, right? You charge extra for that stuff. You charge extra, you know? So don't sell yourself for the normal rate when you're doing that cinnamon sugar. You know, when you got your bread and butter, that's what you normally charge. You just do that, you know, that's your daily grind. When you get that extra ingredient, that cinnamon sugar, that side job, that's when you charge as much as you can. And that's what makes it worth it, you know, to think ahead. Thinking ahead, that's when it pays you to think ahead, right? So, for example, let me just give you an example. On an average, we make, you know, 200, probably anywhere from $150 to $300 per load for a truck. Like on the bread and butter grind. That's like working for the quarry, or I'm getting paid by hour. You know, I'll do 7 loads in one day, and then at the end of the day, I only make $1,000, right? That's the bread and butter grind. But then you get that side hustle load, or that, you know, the person that's not a customer that's going to call you back every single day. That's the one that you want to charge up the yin-yang. You know, make it worth it. That's when you get the cinnamon sugar. And what that is, you know, instead of charging, you know, $150 for a load, $250, you're charging them $2,000, you know. You're charging them $3,000 for one load of rock that could only, you know, normally you deliver it for $200 because that's the customer you're paying every single day. They're paying you every single day. So you get the money in the volume. And then you have your side hustle, you know, which that's one of the reasons why I bought the excavators, you know, it's because I wanted to stay busy, right? My business objective is not excavation, it's dump trucking. But when I get an excavation job, I'm charging probably 3 times more. What the heck's going on? Oh, he's trying to get over there. Heard an ambulance getting on the other. Back to my train of thought. When you get that side job, that's when you charge out the yin-yang. Because they're not your normal customer. They have to pay for that time, you know, because it's obviously not during your normal business hours, so they need to pay extra for that. Sometimes you're gonna feel like profit is not a bad word. Let me just put it that way. Profit is not a bad word. Profit's a good word. You know, profit is a good word. You can't feel guilty about it, okay? You don't need to feel guilty about profit. Number one reason why. They are not forced to buy the rock from you. Number one. They can find anybody to do it, but they want you to do it. That's why they have to pay what you're asking, right? It's kind of, you just got to be an alpha male in that, you know what I mean? You just got to know what you want, and you got to ask for it. You got to tell them, this is what I'm charging, or you're not getting it from me. You know, you got to have that foot planted. where you know what you're going to charge, and be expected to lose a job or two. That's okay. But when you get one, you're going to feel good. You can be like, oh yeah, we got to go on a trip on this one. We're going to go to Hawaii on this one, That's what it comes down to, guys. You got to plan ahead. That's how you control the uncontrollable, is by planning. You don't know when your motor's going to blow, so start saving. You don't know when you're going to get a flat tire, so start saving. Prepare for it. The only way to control the uncontrollable is by preparing. You got to set those things up so when it does happen, it's not an inconvenience. And the best way to do that is to have cash. Or some people have like a line of credit, that they can just pull from, or whatever, There's two ways of doing it. You can either have debt or you can have cash. I mean, it's your choice. Or you can have both. It don't really matter. I don't care what you do. One thing you got to realize though is if it's not cash, it's risk. You do have risk because, things stop happening, you got to pay that back. Whether you want to or not, you got to pay it back. If it's already yours, then it's already yours, You lost it, so what? Somebody else's, you're going to pay that back whether you want to or not. Amen. You don't know when you're going to take your last breath, so prepare for it. That's what term life insurance is for. Talk to me about cash, player. Yeah, buddy. It's all about that cash. A lot of people hate me for my business model of paying cash for everything. They hate me. A lot of people think I'm stupid, I'm retarded, and oh, Brian, once you learn how to do this with debt, or once you learn how to do it, they talk down to me like I don't know what I'm doing. Like 90% of the people, unless they're on the same wavelength, they're like, oh, Brian, once you learn how to do it on debt, you'll never do it any other way. Once you learn this, or once you learn that, like, they think they have more knowledge than you. Like, no, I know how to do it that way. I'm just not doing it that way because I'm doing it the way I think is better, right? I like to have a safety net, and the safety net for me is having cash. That's the way I look at it. That is the way I look at it. Yeah, you don't know when you're going to take your last breath, so you better have that life insurance policy. That way your wife and kids are taken care of. Yeah, dude, Dave Ramsey is how I started my whole... Dude, if it wasn't for Dave Ramsey, I would never have anything that I have. I wouldn't have none of it. I wouldn't have 10 acres. I wouldn't have 3 dump trucks. I wouldn't have a Hitachi 50. I wouldn't have a Hitachi 120. I wouldn't have a dozer. I wouldn't have a plate compactor, a jumping jack, I wouldn't have my Harley. I wouldn't have my side-by-side. The list can go on forever. Like, back when I was on the debt plan of, oh, get a credit card and build your credit score, borrow debt, borrow money so you can have a higher ability of borrowing more money. Yeah, here's $10. Now I pay you that back. Now let me borrow $20 so I can pay you more money. No. I did that plan. I did that plan for about 5 years of my whole marriage. living paycheck to paycheck, because every month I had to pay off that credit card. Every month I had to pay those stupid truck payments for a truck that I bought just to impress some stupid people that didn't even care what truck I had. That's what it comes down to. If you start borrowing money, it's just to impress people. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of times that's what it is. Is there a smart way to use debt? Yes, there are smart ways to use it, but 90% of us suck at it. That's just what I'm going to say. 90% of us suck at it. And it's risky. It's easy though. It's easy to go to the bank and ask for some money, and they will give it to you too. They'll give it to you most of the time. If you pay off that money, they'll give you more, because they know you're going to pay it off again. They know you're going to be hooked in that cycle of paying them every single month. Oh, here's the truck payment. Oh, here's the house payment. Oh, here's this payment. Here's that payment. And then at the end of the month, you got nothing because you paid off all your bills. And you built that fake credit, you know? I mean, you're on baby step 3, Brian. Same as me, but I'll probably get truck number 2 first. I wouldn't consider myself technically on baby step 3, kind of on baby step 2, because I do have debt on this truck. I've been the first one to tell everybody, you know, I do preach the cash thing. Here's the thing though, you can take a little risk, you can, you know, but just don't overwhelm yourself, you know. And that's why I bought this truck. You know, I had a lot of money to put down on it. I was very confident that it was low risk for me. You know, I make $38,000 in payments in a year on this, you know, or something like that, 30-something thousand. 30,000 bucks. Ain't that much to have stored away in the bank, just in case there's no work, you can keep making the payments. Yeah, they are, Larry. Yeah, they are, man. They are. Every once in a while, you'll see a really cheap one, and it's cheap for a reason. You're gonna put 20 into it if it's cheap. But you won't have to do it all at once, though. You can do it gradually. And that's what I did. You know? You know, with my my Peterbilt that I bought for $8,000, I bought it for $8,000. And back when I was looking, they were all 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $100,000 trucks on Craigslist. Back then it was Craigslist. It was all, you know, 30,000 or more. Usually it was right around 50. And there were a few of them that were up near 100. And I seen that $8,000 dump truck, and I jumped head first. I jumped head first, and I ended up spending, you know, $20,000 on it before I even worked a single day. You know, and one of the things that, you know, Grandpa reminded me a few months ago, he was like, "Hey Brian, do you remember when you bought that Peterbilt and you worked on it for 7 months and you didn't see a single dime?" You remember that? Like, he said that to me. He's like, "Brian, you remember that? You bought that thing, you worked on it for 7 months, and you spent everything you had on that thing. Everything. You were eating freaking 99-cent hot dogs and top ramen. Pastaroni. Rice and beans. Beans and rice. Now look how much money you're making. Look how much money you're making now. Cashing $30,000 checks. gotta suffer before you can feel the reward, man. You gotta suffer. You gotta get through the sucky crap. You know, when Justin did his first video, the video that inspired me a lot back then. And, you know, me and Justin aren't on the best terms, but he said something that stuck with me, you know. You gotta turn chicken crap into diamonds. Those aren't the words he used, obviously. But when he said that, I was like, yeah. Yeah. How do you do that? How do you turn chicken poop into diamonds? You put it under a lot of pressure. That's how. You know, it sucks. Eventually it's gonna turn into diamonds. That's exactly what my business strategy was. I took some chicken crap and I turned it into a diamond. You know? That's literally what it was. I started with the $8,000 dump truck. $8,000 dump truck that everybody said, oh, Brian, dude, in 2 years from now, the EPA is going to shut that truck down and you won't be able to get hired anywhere. They won't even allow that truck in Pierce County or King County. And I said, yeah, maybe. And then I kept on trucking. I just ignored them. I just ignored them and just drove it home. I never looked back when I bought that truck. I never looked back. There were a few times where I was starting to peek over my shoulder. I was starting to get a little depressed, you know. Like that one time when I tried to start the truck in the driveway and the batteries were dead and I didn't have enough money to buy new batteries for it. And then I just sat there. It just sat in the driveway. I couldn't do any work to it because I didn't have any money. And then next thing I know, I got another paycheck. I'm like, I'm gonna buy some batteries because I need to hear this stupid truck run. I'm losing hope. I got that thing started. I did a video on that. I don't know if any of you guys watched that. That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. And, you know, those were the days right there. Yeah, dude, smiles for miles. Yeah, when I got that first job, I'm so glad I did a video of that too. That was this. I remember getting the call too at like 9 o'clock at night. Pat was like, hey man, you ready for this? I got a job for you. And I'm like, I've never driven a dump truck in my life. And he's like never, like this is your first day, never? And I'm like, yeah, I've never been to a pit. And he's like, okay, don't mention that to anybody. You keep that between you and me. And I was like, okay, you know. He's like, I'll help you out. I'll tell you everything to do. And he did. And there are tons of people out there that will do that, you know. And I'll never forget that, man. I took pictures of the first load I dumped on some guy's property. Chuck, I think his name was Chuck. And you know, it was cool, man. First load I ever dumped. Took pictures, posted it on my Facebook, and man, passion. Passion can get you places. If you have passion, if you have that drive to just want it bad enough, it don't matter what the obstacles are. It don't matter what the obstacles are. Man, I love those trucks. Walrath has some nice trucks. He's got some nice trucks. That's one of the dump trucking companies. When I was in fleet fueling, I remember going to Old Castle Precast, and I seen one of their dump trucks pull up, and I was like, dang, that's a nice dump truck. Like, that was probably the first day I ever fell in love with dump trucks. And I was like 24, 25, and I seen it, I was like, man, that guy, the guy who owns that, I want to be him, you know? And that was the first time I remember ever liking dump trucks. It was only a few years ago, you know. But, you know, the moral of the story is, you know, you can be negative and you can consider more control, but if you want it bad enough, nothing's out of your control. If you want it bad enough, you can turn the chicken crap into diamonds. You know? And I'm proving that. I'm proving it for everybody on YouTube, you know? Anybody that wants to buy a dump truck and make it happen, just watch my videos and see how I did it, and then just copy it. You don't gotta invent something new. You just copy what happened, you know? Just work your butt off, fix it as you go. Next thing you know, you'll be cashing $30,000 checks, you know? That's what it comes down to. Your story inspired me. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. You know, and I'm not special. Some people think I did it because I'm special. I'm not special. Man, I screw up more than most people. You know? The only reason I really made it, there's like two reasons. I'm going to sum it up to two reasons. There's more than two reasons. I'm going to sum it up to two reasons. It was hard work. It was hard work. Determination. That's really what it came down to. Hard work and determination and saving money. You know, if I would have went into debt to buy that $8,000 dump truck, I never would have made it. I know that for a fact. I never would have made it. Because the money would have been going out faster than it was coming in. I had to build up that water supply, that stack of cash first, before I dove in. I have a degree, but bought a dump truck, way more money. No, we haven't kissed and made up yet, Carson. You know, honestly, I wish Justin the best. I do. He's got a totally different business strategy than me. You know, I think he does put out really good advice most of the time, you know. But where me and Justin kind of butted heads was he thought I had to follow every single one of his pieces of advice, and we're in completely different states, so it doesn't always match up. You know, it's not that I didn't take his advice to heart. It's not that I wasn't listening to him. You know, it's just something in my state was different than his, and I chose a different route. You know, it doesn't mean that his advice is bad or my advice is bad. We just took different routes, you know. Justin can hate on me all he wants. You know, I don't really hate him, though. I think he has good advice most of the time. And, you know, he's killing it, too, you know. He's not driving a truck anymore, so you know he's making it. You know, I'm almost to that point. I'm making it, too. We're doing it two different ways, two different states, and we're both killing it. Yeah, see, dump trucks and equipment, you know, like, you know, they go hand in hand, you know, and I've always been the one, I kind of want to monopolize. I want to be the one that's in control of everything. I'm kind of a control freak that way. I want to be in control of everything about my business. How I get the work, what the work is. You know, I want to be the one-stop shop for the customer. I don't want them going to somebody else because I can't do something, because that's money I lose. That's money you lose. If you can't be that one-stop shop, you're losing money. Or you can make it up by just focusing on one thing, and that's how you do it. You know, there's two ways to do it. That's just what it comes down to. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. grudge. Don't live with any stress. That's a good shot. Amen to that, man. And I've always been a person, forgive and forget. You can ask my grandpa any day of the week, or mostly anybody I know. If if something ever happens where I'm, mad or something, usually by the next day I've forgotten about it, and I don't really care. It don't bother me anymore. It is what it is. I just blow it off. Ooh, fender bender. Blocking up I-5 South right next to Nisqually. Amen to that, Carson. I want to make all the money the job has to offer. Amen to that. And that's why you got to charge, and you got to charge extra for that too, because you're doing the service. They don't have to call anybody else. They have to pay for that. They have to pay for that one-stop shop. That's why you're charging them more too. They don't have to work anything out logistically. They don't have to plan nothing. They just make one phone call and get it done. And that's why you charge what you charge. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about it. Feel good about it. There's money in control. When you're controlling the job site, you're making the most amount of money. That's why managers get paid more than workers, laborers. Because money equals control. Or control equals money. Whatever way you want to look at it. Because there's more risk, there's more everything. The workload's more, everything's more. You get paid more. Now we must enter on this side or something, because traffic's slowing down now. That is a funky looking setup. Never seen a setup like that before. Looked like it had some sort of a tank, and then it was one trailer that had a tank, and then it was attached to like a dump box. It's kind of weird. I've never seen it before. Like maybe they pump it into the tank and then it strains it into the box or something. I don't know. Anyways, guys, I think I got my point across on, kind of the direction I wanted to go in this video. A lot of people are going to say things are out of your control, and sometimes they are. Sometimes some things will hit you in the face like a ton of bricks. But 90% of the time, you know what's going to happen. Deep down inside, in here, you know what's going to happen. So you got to prepare for it. And that's how uncontrollable things become controllable. You average about 30% profit on all the jobs you do. 30% sounds like a lot. Some people, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a percentage. Percentages, just depends on what percentage you're happy with at the end of the day. What is that noise? Oh, that's what it is. Take care of the small things. That's a good plan. Yep. Amen to that. A lot of times what happens too is when you get caught off guard by something that you're not expecting, it kind of short circuits your brain. I've had my brain short circuited a whole bunch of times, like from a problem. The problem arose and I just was like extreme overload, like what the flip do I do? Usually, after you give it some time, then you come up with a game plan, how to attack the situation. You know, like when I got the call for the strong arm, I was in panic overload mode. In my head, I'm like, okay, at least it's Friday, so I got the whole weekend to work on this, but what am I gonna do? How do I fix this? You know, logistically, everything in my brain was like scrambled. And it happens to everybody, Kleckler. It happens to everybody. That's just the name of the game. You know, until you've experienced something, you don't know what to expect. It's gonna give you some stress, you know? And that happened to me. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. When strong arm broke, he said, hey, I got some bad news. And immediately I was like, oh no, the truck's flipped over. I was like, the truck's totaled in my head. I'm like, I'm going out of business, you know, in my head, you know, I didn't even know what the problem was, but my brain automatically was like overload mode, you know. And then he sent me the pictures and I was like, oh, okay, how do I do this? Okay, I think I got a game plan. And then I developed a game plan, and then next thing you know, I got some more input from other people, and then my game plan got better, and it got better, and then it got better, and then I'm like, okay, it's time to execute the game plan. This looks like it's gonna work out good, and you know, and sometimes when you're executing that game plan, things change. You know, like my welder started going out on me. That was like, okay, if this welder completely quits on me, how am I gonna finish this game plan? That started to come into my brain too. I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, I have to get my excavator and I have to carry my welder over to my neighbor's house and drive the dump truck over there and finish the job. You know, that'll take an extra 2 hours at the beginning and an extra 2 hours at the end, because then I'm gonna have to bring everything back, you know. And I just kind of, you kind of settle yourself down once you start making plans. Your brain starts to cool down. You start to go back into, okay, let's categorize this. Let's do it this way. 1, 2, 3 steps, done. And then you're back into comfort mode, back to normal. You know, and then you make some long-term plans, you know, like I knew the welder was starting to act up. I'm like, you know what? I ain't gonna wait around for my welder to quit on me, because that's one of those tools that I want 100% of the time. I never want to have to worry about it. You know, that's one of those tools you don't ever want to have to worry about. Same with, you know, like an impact gun. In the dump truck world, you need an impact gun. You need, you know, some impact sockets or something. You got to be able to, you got to have some things that are 100% dependable, because you're going to lean on those things when you have these extreme events like the strong arm breaking, you know. And I know for a fact I can depend on my tools because I've used them so many times, you know. I know, you know, I have that confidence in them. My confidence started to waver a little bit on the welder. That's why I bought another welder, because I will 100% be able to have confidence in my tools. You know, I know what they're capable of. You know, even though they're Harbor Freight, I know what they're capable of. And you grab the right tool for the right job, you know. Yeah, Matt, man. Thanks for watching. You know, call me up anytime or do whatever, you know, email me, you know, or message me, whatever works best for you, you know. I'm generally pretty open to talking to people, you know. What kind of pisses me off is when people call me and they want me to run their business for them. That kind of pisses me off a little bit. I've had a few guys where they call me up and like, hey man, I'm gonna buy this truck. Can you put me to work 100%? It's like, that ain't my job. My job is to keep care of my trucks. If you buy a truck, you need to take care of that yourself, unless I'm charging you, you know? If you want to be my customer, then sure, you know? That, I had one guy that was like overly pushy. Like he's like, hey man, and it was something that I advised against. He called me and asked me for my advice, and then he didn't listen to my advice, and then he wanted me to take care of him afterwards, and I was like, no, you know, like he asked me about tandem dump trucks. I said, I don't know anything about tandem dump trucks, you know. I'm not gonna give you that advice because I don't know anything about them. I don't know who the customers are. I don't have any customers that hire tandem dump trucks, you know, typically. And it's not you, Duval, if you're wondering, if you ever watch these. It's not you. It was some Russian guy up in Auburn. And he bought an old piece of junk tandem. And then he was like, hey man, I bought my truck. I'm trying to fix it up, trying to get on the road. I'm like, sweet man, what'd you buy? And he's like, I bought a tandem. And I'm like, you can't ask me for advice and then, you know, go a different route and then still he expects me to give him work. And I was like, dude, I don't have any work for tandems. You know, if you're going to ask for my advice, you know, and you don't take it, then you can't depend on me to give you work. Like that, I was about to reach through the phone and slap that guy. Like, damn, dude. Like, if you want my advice, then at least listen to it. And if you decide to go a different route, then don't expect me to provide all your work for you. Like, if you call me up asking what truck you should buy, and I give you advice, you know, to buy a certain type of truck, and then you don't buy that truck, and then you call me back and you expect me to give you work, you're tripping, dude. You're tripping. And that's completely different than mine and Justin's situation, because I know it kind of sounds similar. Justin gave me advice, I listened to it, I chose a different path, and then I didn't call him up and ask him for $1 million. That's not what happened. You know what I mean? I went a different route because I thought a different route was the way I was going, and it's the way I went, you know? But that guy had me tripping. I was like, dude, I told you I don't have work for tandem. I straight up told him, I said, before he bought it, I said, if you want my advice, I would say, minimum, buy a triaxle, and I could probably give you work. And I told him, I said, do not count on me for 100% of your work. I will not give you 100% of your work. I was 100% honest and upfront with him. I said, dude, my trucks come first. That's the way I roll in my business. My trucks are coming first. My trucks get fed first. You know? Everybody that knows me knows that. You know, they're not going to depend on me for work because they know my trucks come first. If I told and I said, hey man, if you pay me this much, I'll make sure your truck's first, then that would be a different story. But that was not the story. You know, the story was, I said, buy a triaxle and I can probably give you some work. And then he bought a tandem, and then I was like, well, I don't really know anybody who hires tandems, man. I don't ever truck with tandems. I hardly see them on the road. I can't help you out, man. Like, call some excavation companies up, call some landscaping companies up. You know, you're gonna have to grind for some work. Just count on me, because I told you I don't have that kind of work, and I told you not to buy the truck, and then you went and bought it, and then now you think I'm gonna supply you with work? No. That's why my triaxle sits. Nobody wants to run them here. Yeah, it's just like, it's kind of like tandems, I'll be honest. If you buy a tandem in Washington, long term, you need to be thinking of putting a drop axle on that truck. I mean, long term, and I'm even seeing, you know, and I don't know 100% on this because I'm not in the game like I was 2 years ago for tandem or triaxles. I don't know if the work is still there as much for triaxles, but I can tell you this. I can tell you this 100% with my business knowledge. The triaxle work has started to slow down. I noticed it a little bit. That's why I went with Super Dump, right? Not only did I notice it, but Krupp noticed it. You got Leo, one of my old buddies. He's 80 years old, and he's like, hey, man, I noticed the solo work is starting to slow down a little bit. I'm thinking about getting a simple 16. I said, yeah, that'd be a good truck, but I'd just go with the Super Dump. Why not go with the Super Dump? You know, he's like, yeah, but there's so much money in this. I'm like, yeah, they're a lot of money. It's because they're working. There's a reason they're a lot of money. It's because they're working. You know, they're getting paid. But, you know, can I tell you that the solo work is still there? I'm not really in the game that much with the solo truck. Like, I got my three excavation contractors that are my bread and butter. They hire my solo every once in a while in the summer and in the winter. You know, Sound, they hire my solo, you know, pretty regularly. But I'm in tight with that company because I bend over backwards for them, you know, and that's what you, in order to get that bread and butter, sometimes you got to bend over backwards, you know. A lot of people say there's no loyalty in trucking. Well, I kind of disagree with that. I think there is loyalty in trucking, you know. If you don't think there is, then you probably got hooked up with somebody that, you know, you do have to realize, though, in business, money is the bottom line, though. So, at the end of the day, money has to match up with the loyalty, you know. It's raining a lot here. We got 15 people in here. 3 likes. Look at that. You guys disappoint me sometimes, man. 16 people taking all this free advice and no likes. But you know what they say, advice is what you pay for it. You be the judge of that. Oh no, I think some of my advice is pretty dang valuable. But some people don't think so. A lot of people don't think so. It's weird not hearing me yell over in Detroit. Yeah. I'm still yelling though. I'm still all amped up. But yeah, there is no, I'm surprised you didn't grab the International. Yeah, buddy. I probably would have, except for Tyler. Tyler is of the mindset, he's like, if I drive that new Peterbilt, I won't be able to get back in the International. And I don't want to argue with him, but this Peterbilt does ride really nice. But the automatic, in my book, I think if I had the choice between the two trucks, I'd probably grab the International. I hate to say it, it's a little bit grimier inside. It's a little bit noisier inside, but it's an automatic. And dude, I freaking love that truck. I know I'm gonna get some haters. Sorry, the automatic's where it's at. Yeah, I don't think it's the case either. I mean, they both have their pros and their cons, right? The one thing I love about the Peterbilt, dude, my phone hooks up Bluetooth to the radio. Like, I got my Pandora playing all day, you know, that is nice. You know, it's quiet. So my hearing isn't going out as much as if I was driving the International. I might throw earplugs in the International. In this truck, there's no way I'm putting earplugs in because it's quiet. It's like a little baby, you know, sleeping. That's a horrible analogy because babies are loud as hell. they are, the MX-13s. They are quiet. I love it. I love the quietness. You know, I wish this truck had an automatic in it. I honestly do. I wish it had an automatic in it. If it did, if this truck had an automatic in it, Blake, I probably never would have hired another driver. I'll be honest. I probably never would have hired a driver. I would have sold the Peterbilt. I said I'd be driving this every day. Ah, my back. My back is definitely not as strong as it used to be. My back gets, you know, wore out a lot faster than it used to be. Amen, Blake. I would have. I probably would have. But what would have happened is I would have found out nobody wants to drive my old Peterbilt, and I probably would have sold it. Either that, or I would have been mad because I would have been like, man, I have to drive the Peterbilt because nobody wants to drive it, and everybody wants the gravy train, and I would have been a little bit madder, you know? Like, I just bought this new truck, and it's everything I want, and I don't get to drive it. I would have been probably a little bad. I'll be honest. If you're looking at buying a brand new truck, and I don't tell people to buy new trucks, but if you are, get the Allison. You won't be sorry. You will not be sorry. That's how it is with my International. So it sits. Yep. Yeah, because you don't want to drive it. You don't want to drive it. You already got used to driving the cream. You're like, screw that. I ain't driving that International. You should just sell it, Blake. Sell it for like 20, 30, you know. I know you won't do it, though. You won't do it. You're just like me, man. I can't sell that Peterbilt. I thought about it a whole bunch of times. I'm like, man, I'll just list it for 25, 30,000 and just sell it. And I'm like, no, I can't sell it. I want to, but I can't. I want to, but I can't. You know, if somebody came up to me with the wad of cash, though, you know, a hundreds, at least this thick, that's probably like 30 grand worth of hundreds. I probably would have been like, okay, I might do it at this point because I'm almost to the point where I'm not driving every day anyways. The automatic, you never touch the buttons. The only time you ever touch the a bunch of times, so it just stays in first gear, and then, you know, then you just go, you just do your sprint, and it spreads so much better than any manual. Dude, I hate to say it, automatics will always spread better than manuals. They will always spread better, because here's why. That box can go up as slow as you want, and it's never going to stop as soon as you push in that clutch. You know what I mean? It's going to go. So it's going to go nice and easy. When you go to shift, there's going to be a little jerk, you know, or the box won't raise. You'll have to pause, you know. I mean, you get really good at it, you know, and it looks the same, but it's way easier in an automatic. Way easier. Yeah, if I could go back in time, I wish my first truck would have been an automatic. This truck, my first new truck. I wish it was an automatic. You know? But at the end of the day, what's done is done. You gotta live with it. It's not worth the hassle of trying to sell this and buy an automatic. It's not really worth the hassle to me. Because I don't ever drive the truck. That's the saddest thing about it, too. I thought I was going to drive this all the time. I thought this was going to be my baby. Like, I did think about it, you know. Like, I was like, man, I'm going to get a driver. We're going to take turns driving the new truck. Then next thing I know, I hire a full-time guy, and then I never drive it. And I'm like, damn! Truck has 90,000 miles on it. I haven't even put 2,000 on it. You know? 92,000 miles on it, and I haven't even put 2,000 on it. And I knew a lot of people, and see, this is where the debt thing comes into play. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be, I kind of had a feeling I wasn't going to be driving this truck. I kind of had a feeling the driver was going to be driving it. That was my plan. The driver's going to drive it. He's going to make the payment for me. And that, they do. They make the payment for you. You're building equity while they're, you know, catching a paycheck. Yeah. It is pretty sweet when it's racking up miles. When it's just sitting there and you see the, you know, you see, I'm actually at a point now where I don't even really notice that much when the truck payment comes out anymore. You know, I have enough money in there that it doesn't even really faze me. But when I first got it, I will not lie, that $4,000 a month that came out was like, damn! Like, my bank account just shrunk big time, you know? Like, when that truck payment first starts coming in, you will notice it. I guarantee you that. You will notice that truck payment coming out. After a year owning the thing, and the revenue is constantly coming in. Oh, $4,000? Oh, okay. There it goes. Here it comes. There it goes. Here it comes. You know, you just... How much was the super dump bill? Okay, so that's kind of a tricky question. So let me kind of break it down for you. The actual price of the truck itself is like $230,000, something like that. Then they add in sales tax and federal excise tax. So after that, then it's, this truck was $275,000. Then, because you don't have the cash to pay for it, then they say, okay, we'll give you this money, but we're going to charge you this much in interest. And then the price tag went from $275 to $350. This dump truck, once it's all paid off, said and done, if I don't make any extra payment, it will have cost me $350. It's the cost of the truck, the financing, sales tax, and the federal excise tax. $350,000. In 6 years, I think. 6 years or 5 years. I can't remember what the term is. I don't even look at it anymore. It's just, it's one of those things that just happens in the background. You know? And the reason it's in the background is because eventually you get enough money in the bank, it doesn't even faze you when the payment comes out. It's just in the back of your mind. When you start to get tight, then it comes to the front of your mind and you're like, oh snap, this really is a risk. Oh snap, like if I can't make this payment, they're gonna take the truck. Does that happen to me? No, because I have the money saved up. You know, I have that old iron that's just sitting there doing nothing. It's my bank, you know? And a lot of people, you know, don't realize that. Those pieces of equipment, that's money in the bank. That is money in the bank because that's not my primary business. You know, somebody mentioned that to me one time. They were like, Brian, don't sell that. That's money in the bank. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, because that's not my primary business. Like, if I sell those off, I'm still rocking my daily bread and butter. It's just money in the bank. Most YouTubers, I don't think I've ever heard anybody mention that stuff. They'll never tell you the overall cost. They'll tell you, oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm a baller. I bought this truck for $230,000. I can see that, you know. I can say that, but that's a lie. And I don't do that crap. You know. I ain't gonna try and lie to people like that. You know, unless I don't know I'm lying, you know. If I really believe that that's the truth, then I'm gonna tell you what I think, you know. My Jeep, simple 16, y'all call it, was 190 feet. Oh, 190 FET included. Put down 50K and have 1,800 in payments. It was 170 something before tax. That's not bad. So what's it at the end of the interest once it's paid off? 190. So if yours was 190, don't tell me yet. I want to guess this. Give me a few seconds to think this out. 190, and it's gonna be different because I'm just gonna go off of kind of my interest rate. No, I'm trying to guess the out the door 100% after financing and everything cost. If it was 160, somebody's texting me, I can't see what it is. 190 after that, then the cost of financing. Probably like 280, 260, 250, somewhere in there. After the cost of financing, after everything's said and done, probably 250. So $100,000 less than a strong arm. The problem is 16s. I don't know how much they work. I know they work a bit, but I've never had one, so I don't really know. I don't know what they make either per hour. I'm guessing they make probably like 125, 130 or something. Reason I can't see the comments coming in. It's not letting me see them. There's like a blue arrow, but it won't let me see them. There we go. So what was the out the door price after financing? Kleckler? Was it like 230, 240, 250, somewhere in there? Or was 190 with the cost of financing, total out the door, 190? See, my interest rate on this was 6%. That's kind of high, I'll be honest. It's high. It's higher than what I wanted, I'll tell you that. But, you know, not having experience buying trucks, you know, not having any... here's the thing, that is one of the bad things about doing everything cash. Buying a truck is more expensive if you don't have credit. Because you're going to be paying for that perceived missing credit. So you end up paying a higher interest rate. But the good thing is, you know, even though I try not to use debt at all, this is building credit, whether I like it or not. It is building good credit, you know. I've never missed a payment. Always paid on time. It's on automatic payments, you know. So. Anyways. Well, I think I'm going to let you guys go. I'm almost home. So, I need to go get something to eat. You know, kind of plan my day out for tomorrow. I got to get in contact with this guy that lives down the road from me. He's going to let me borrow a vibrator roller for my driveway job. I gotta figure out logistically how I'm gonna get that vibrator to the job site. I need to see if he has a trailer I can borrow with the vibrator, or if I need